swifter than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain, it's a plane, it's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interranti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Hey everyone, this is Walter from iWalter. I am actually doing a normal type show the way I used to do them tonight, today, whatever. It's actually my time. It's going on 5 o'clock. I just actually rolled out of bed not too long ago. I was up late last night. Two friends and I, and a friend's friend came along. He's a big Joe Bob Briggs fan, so he had texted my friend Matt and I about going down to see Joe Bob Briggs down in Philadelphia last night. So he did it the day before. And it was like, because he didn't know about it either. So it was like, yeah, you know what? Sure, I'll do that. And I haven't been out of the house. It was only going to cost $20, so why not? And I was going to go with him. This guy, his name's Ed Rick. The other day, or the other month, we were going to go to see Joe Bob, because I wanted to see some other people, not mainly Joe Bob, but some other celebrities at some horror convention. Because Joe Bob used to do these horror themed things, and basically a host for shows. Back in the day around here, I mentioned this last night to Matt and Ed Rick and his friend. There was things like, I'm trying to think, there was Stella from Manayunk. There was Up All Night with two different celebrities. One was Gilbert Gottfried, and there was a blonde-haired chick. She was really incredible looking. So that was in New York, though. So then back in the day, I think it was TNT, I believe, or something like that, one of the cable networks. Joe Bob did the same kind of thing. He basically hosted horror movies. So he's a Texan kind of guy, so I believe, and it'd be like kind of cool to kind of do that. So anyway, real quick, the reason I'm doing this way, because I'm basically not washed up yet, and I didn't feel like setting anything up for a podcast, like the camera and stuff. It's like, okay, this is going to be very time consuming. I have a short window of time because I've mentioned this a million times, but I live at home with the parents. Have been for years. And just to clarify stuff, my father is my caretaker. As long as he's alive, he's responsible for me. Whatever happens to me afterwards or him is up to the state, I guess. So the reason I'm mentioning this stuff is because I want to name this episode to clarify something I said on another show about what I said about a work situation that I was saying. And I'm going to clarify this. So right off the bat, I'm going to name this episode to let people know. It's going to be called You're Fired, I Quit. And the reason for that is for two different reasons. And one is not related to what I want to talk about. And it's one of these episodes I basically have enough just to talk about off the top of my head. I don't really need many stories. I did get one a friend sent to me because I requested it that I heard on Rush Limbaugh. And I will mention that in a minute. Or an hour, who knows? Hopefully a couple minutes. So right now I'm looking out my window. This is another thing. We have speed limit signs in our neighborhood that say 25. And the whole entire weekend I see these plates that say New York, New Jersey, Delaware, who knows where, Florida. And they basically, if you wave them, hey, you're going too fast, can you please slow down? We got kids in this neighborhood. Or that you wave them because you almost ran me over with your car, they floor it. And they go through stop signs. Now, the other day, somebody did that, and a state trooper pulled them over. And it's like, that's the last thing you want as a state trooper to pull you over, because your ticket's going to be, like, out of reach to pay for. Because that's the bottom line. I've understood from the past that state troopers don't like that stuff. So, again, I'm going a little off track, but it's just when I look out my window and I see these people racing back and forth, it drives me crazy because there is speed limit signs and they just don't wish to, follow the rules. I mean, there's rules for a reason. Again, I needed to definitely do this to clarify because I have a particular individual who has been downloading my stuff because I do have it open for anybody to touch. And they've been just using it to basically make me look like a horrible person. That, I'm just trying to pull a fast one on another individual. I'll leave it at that. So they're going out of their way to basically incriminate me. And it's like, okay, if you're going to take everything I say, which you will, because I, said something that was off the top of my head and misquote me, I'm going to correct my misquoted thing because of the way it was worded. And I did this on my last episode I just called the iWalter Show, or the iWalter Show. So again, I need to clarify this because I said on my last podcast, which was a video podcast, which I am not doing this time for obvious reasons, because right now I am in my underwear and I don't give a crap, and I am disgusted because I didn't take a shower yet. So, and I don't care. That's the bottom line. I really don't care. That's why I'm just doing it this way. So anyway, I've mentioned this. Of course, this person who's trying to incriminate me will not look this far back. I had worked for a company that was making my life a living hell. And I worked for a company that didn't turn the other cheek when it came to other people not doing their work. I am not going to name the company because I generally have never done so, and I'm not going to do it now. I am not part of this company that I'm mentioning, but I'm not going to mention her name because this guy will take it out of context and say I did something wrong. So I mentioned in my last podcast that, wow, the new job I have is much harder than the one that I previously had. Well, no offense, I've been out of work. Just let this person, I'm not going to even call him a gentleman, but this person is going to use against me, in some type of court setting to make me look bad. I'm just going to let you know. I did say that, the prior job I had was they basically held you by the hand, and the job I have now, you work. Well, what I meant by that was not me. I meant my coworkers, actually. But the way I word things, sometimes I say things, and I just say what's off the top of my head. There is no script in front of me. If I did have a camera, you would see no script. If you look at my podcast, I have no script. I just say what comes off the top of my head. And sometimes I say things not the correct way. It's just the way my thought pattern goes. I'll say something, and the way I say it comes out completely different on what the actual truth is. So I worked at a place, by the way, where the people got to sit around doing nothing most of the time, and management didn't do crap about it. What they did do is harass me about doing the work and make sure I got it done. And if I didn't, I was considered and I was told that I was being insubordinate. So there was a fellow coworker at my job who stuck up for me at my old job and told them that this is ridiculous why you had let Walter go. And again, I'm not going to mention a name. And now they had been trying to basically get him terminated from the job because he was supporting me. So this is the kind of place that is a nightmare. Not everywhere. The place I used to work was a large factory that had different divisions, so you didn't have to work at one individual building on this premises. You could work in another building which had a completely different atmosphere. But their whole thing is to make quotas on who they hire, which has been seen on the news quite often from other places doing the same thing. They really don't care about people that have disabilities, which I do have certified since I was born, practically, not too long afterwards. Over the years, I had to prove I have a disability. And they just turn the other cheek. And they hire people, we have a higher-up manager who I asked him one time, aren't you the head manager? And they basically said that, no, I'm not a manager at all, and lied about it. I've been going back and forth with this individual, not the person who's trying to incriminate me. It's two different people. I'm not going to mention anything about them because I don't really want to. and I'm not going to incriminate myself anymore. But they basically downright under what you would consider oath, because you have to testify that you're going to tell the truth, nothing but the truth. So it is a court setting, but it was in a smaller surroundings of this place trying to incriminate me. Multiple times, this one individual under what would be considered oath basically was, because it's basically put into the final word, the text, or whatever you want to call them, has been written in, transcribed in, but this person, he or she, I should say, had, because I'm talking about two different people, and it sounds like one, but it's two different people. This one individual that was under quote-unquote oath basically downright lied about me, made up hideous stories about that I was fully understood what I did to get me into the sticky situation that I am in now. And I had told, try to ask the people that are defending me, different defendants, because I have more than one, listen, what this person just said is called under, if you look at it, was not true. So the fact that they said it, that's called liable, means that you basically lied under oath and testified that I did certain things that I did not do, or understood certain things that I did not do, brought up stuff that was not true. And then when it's transcribed, then, yeah, that's slander. And I said to him, you can take this anywhere. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know this. I mean, the only reason I know the word slander, because years ago, many years ago, 30 years ago, I lived down in Horsham. And I had this guy who worked at this Wawa overnight. It was a heavy-set guy. And he always liked talking to me. His name was Doug. Believe it or not, it was Doug. I can't remember his last name. He lived in a trailer. But the guy was basically, because he looked basically stereotypically fat and sloppy, and he just wore sweatpants all the time, and he was very dirty. But the guy, I talked to him, I'm not going to dismember anybody, or what do you call it, disassociate from anybody just because of their appearance. I've done that slightly, but they end up, these two individuals, one end up being my best friend when I was in high school, not the same guy I'm just talking about. His name was John Greenswald, and he was very dirty and sloppy, but and I kind of just didn't want to talk to him. I was in middle school. He ended up becoming my best friend. So, yeah, don't judge a book by its cover is what I'm trying to say. I do up front, but then I kind of learned that you can't do that. Another best friend of mine, he was my neighbor, who I just didn't really want to talk to. I didn't know anything about him. I don't know why he always tried to talk to me, and he ended up being like my best friend. And it was a neighbor who lived right across next door to me in my apartment. And that's another thing. Saying I lived in an apartment wasn't mean that I owned it. I actually had it subleased, just to clarify this stuff, under a thing that was a transitional living program after I was thrown out of the house. My parents paid for me through a place called Horsham Clinic. They had this set up where they basically put you in a living arrangement where you lived with other people who had certain disabilities or mental illness. So I was put in a regular apartment. So let me just clarify that. It was this guy who's going to take this podcast and download it. It's going to take everything out of context. So I've been in and out of mental facilities pretty much all my life for suicide and OCD. Not hide anything. I am, basically telling you the truth, and I've never lied about anything. So, because if I lied about something, it would just not work for me. I'm like a horrible liar if I did, and I'm not lying. I'm telling you the total truth. So I'm jumping different timelines on my life, but I'm just trying to get this stuff out now. So I'm clarifying things. So anyway, but I'm just saying the one friend, by the way, going back to him, named Doug, he worked at, a 7-Eleven's or a Wawa. No, I don't think there was Wawas. I think it were all 7-Elevens, but he worked overnight. So the company, or the place he worked at, the 7-Elevens, it was down in Horsham, and the people are really rotten with him because, one thing, not that I am, but he was homosexual. he was open about it, which to me was kind of irritating because he was hitting on me a lot. And it was like, no offense, I'm not gay. I enjoy talking to you. I'll hang out with you. We can shoot the breeze, but don't hit on me. I'm not going to attack you, but I just don't appreciate it, bottom line. But we had a lot of good discussions, me and this guy, Doug. And he got really pissed one time because he said, Walt, I got fired from my job at 7-Eleven's because they set me up and said that I did something which was completely wrong. And then he used the word slander. And I was like, okay, I've never heard that word before until then. And he mentioned that it was slander. So I was like, okay, let me look. He explained to me. I was like, okay. And I never thought I would have to use the word slander in anything I ever did since then. But yeah, I do now because I have I worked for, hopefully I will get reinstated because it's still up in the air. But I worked at this company that in this particular division where they hired somebody who was way over their head on, they didn't have the proper experience. They say they do, but they were replaced because of appearance and to what I feel like, I'm just saying this, probably to fill a quota. And they, quote unquote, they say it was a best fit, but it was more of a best fit to fill a agenda. And this particular building I worked in is just been a mess, and people have been leaving left and right. I've heard it from fellow employees I worked with. They said, we can't work with this individual who is the higher up management in this building because they have no clue what they're doing, and they act like they do. So they did basically destroy the building, and they're just blaming everybody else. They're going around firing people left and right if they can, or at least trying to. They are harassing people, and they're playing the typical victim card. So that's it in a nutshell, without me saying precisely where I work. And that's all. That to me is nonsense. That is slander. That is liable. Playing the victim card does not go well with me. If I want to play a victim card, I could. I have legitimate reason to do so. This place I worked for was nothing more than, now I'm trying to get reinstated in a different position because I was in the past where I had jobs I couldn't handle that I thought I could. I overstepped my boundary because I have what's called a learning disability, and I made that very clear from years ago, and they never wanted to hear it. They just ignored it. So I made it very clear. I did try to do it when I was looking for, basically some temporary job situation because it's the holidays. You can do that now. But I've been going through this since, I think, April. And, and it was like, okay, well, this I can't live with no money. And I had bills that were rolling in. So I had pulled out of my 401k at this point, had physically pulled out on an early withdrawal, $18,000. So I have to pay a penalty on doing an early withdrawal because I'm only 51. And just recently, because the bills continue to roll in, I couldn't take any more early withdrawals because it's just going to hurt me even more. It was like, okay, this time I'm just going to take a loan and hopefully I can at least pay the loan payments back. That was $1,800 because I had tried to explain this to my father. He doesn't want to hear it, but I have car insurance that was due. I had car maintenance that needed to be done. The car has 63,000 miles. It has maintenance. The car is perfect shaped otherwise, but you're going to have wear and tear on it, so I have to pay on that. I have health insurance every month. It's cost me money. I have a phone bill, which I need to keep open. It's a cell phone. I understand. You don't need a cell phone. Get a landline. Well, the cell phone's much cheaper than a landline, and it follows you everywhere. It's cost me $70 a month. I had Verizon. It was well over 100. It would have been $135 a month without any discounts. I had company discounts from where I worked. Those probably wouldn't have lasted, and plus Verizon keeps on raising their bills. That's what I used to have. I have T-Mobile now. So I'm saving myself theoretically, I'm saving myself about $50 a month right now. So give or take. And there's certain things I'm going to have to cut back on, even on T-Mobile now. It works fine. The reception's not as good, but that's what I can afford. So I've talked to numerous people. They won't say it to this individual's face, but I will tell you right off because I know this guy's going to download this individual who's trying to incriminate me, who is defending this manager at my old position. And I'll tell you right off, but a lot of people think that this individual is a monster. They don't like them at all. That's why they left, and what I've understood, and I've heard it from different sources, have been leaving in droves. They don't want to stay in this particular building because of this one individual just being such a monster and basically a downright out liar. So I'm being honest. I don't throw any punches. I tell people how it is, and if they don't like it, that's on them. That is part of my problem too. I have, again, probably like a foot and mouth disease as well. So bottom line is, just letting you know, I said in my last podcast, but this is another thing. Okay, I've been not at the particular present job I had, or not present job, prior job that I had for a long time. I had it for like 16 years. It would be 17 this coming year, next year. At some point in time, it'd be 17 years. And they basically put me through a ring. This guy doesn't want to hear about this stuff, but you want to hear something, you better hear everything, not just what you want to do to incriminate me. And the parts that they don't tell you, or he doesn't want to hear, is, do you know that they made me go to get psychologically evaluated numerous times to find me unstable, this job. They had sent me to doctors to get doctor's notes, get physicals, get EKGs, these other things like these brain scans to find, okay, if you have certain problems, you got to prove it. They wanted me to pay for a test that would have cost me out of pocket. When I told them over the years that I have a learning disability that does affect the way I work at a job, they wanted me to pay out they said they were going to pay for it at first, and then they denied it. Some individual, a different one, again, I can't mention any names, who basically just said, well, we're not going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it. If you don't do it, you're going to lose your job. So I was okay. Well, do you know that there's this test for determining you have a learning disability? Do you know that the cost of the test is like $3,500? Well, then you're going to have to do it then, because otherwise we're not going to keep you here. So to me, they don't do this to any other individual, especially if you're fit into a nice little package that will help that we're a diverse company, which they're not. Then that's a different story. So yeah, I over the years had to go, and there was times I had to run back and forth before I started my shift, which was at a job that was second shift. I work a second shift job now at a different place. And both are hell, but one doesn't request for me to prove that I have a learning disability. One doesn't tell me I have to go for a brain scan. One doesn't tell me I have to go for where they stick a tube up your leg up to your heart to see if you have any clots because of the way you move. One doesn't tell me that I need to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, mainly a psychiatrist, to be put on medications because otherwise we will not let you work here. And one does not make up lies about my situations and that I'm just, I lie about stuff and that I'm making things up. So there's a big difference between the job that I am discussing, which I will not mention a name, and the other job that basically is very hard because it's the only job I've had that has 30-minute breaks, no 10-minute breaks, because it's not, you don't have to. By law, you don't have to give, a company does not have to give you 10-minute breaks. They have to give you at least 20 minutes within 8 hours. That's all they're have to give anyone. Any company. That's Pennsylvania for you. No other state does that, but Pennsylvania does. It's a Democratic state, so it does not surprise me. So I'm just making that very clear right now. Other states don't have these stupid, ridiculous, double standard laws, but yeah, Pennsylvania does. So just letting you know. So the job I have, you're on your feet for 8 hours. It is very difficult. because you are on your feet for 8 hours. It's on an assembly line. It is working with drugs that go to other countries because they are not legal in our country by the laws in stringent laws that U.S. have. It's certain medications that if the individual is a woman, and my new job, and these are packing pills, medications, that if one of the pills would break for any reason, women have to leave the room because it could cause birth defects. So, yeah, this is not legal in the U.S., but it's legal in other countries. And the company that I work for is actually now is based out of I believe, Ireland or something. So the thing is, that company, they don't have the same stringent laws we do. So they make the drugs and they disperse them in every other country except U.S. So I'm just trying to clarify that. Again, I can't be very specific, so I apologize about this. But hopefully, the other reason I'm doing this podcast as only audio is because my friend Matt said the last time, and I noticed it too, it was extremely low on the quality, not using Audacity and using the Apple software. So I have to work at that. I didn't feel like doing it today. I really did not want to be in front of the camera. I have a great face for, radio. If you ever heard that and you don't know what it means, it basically means that, a person who has a good voice but not a good face, that's called being, you have a great face for radio. So anyway, yes, over the years I've had, I did make it through college, but it was very difficult. It had taken me almost, 12 years because of having a learning disability. I had to take 1 or 2 classes at a time, and I, basically whittled away at it until I finally finished and got my 4-year degree. And it was very difficult for me because I am not college material, but I did it because I wanted to. And the bottom line is, this person who tries to incriminate me at my old job, I just wanted to let you know that I can learn things, but it takes me a lot longer to learn things. I don't learn things in a conventional way that everyone else would. My IQ on the last test I had gotten was, I think, a 76 or 78. The first time I got this test done for a learning disability, I did pay out of pocket, but I got it at a cut rate because I knew the doctor, the psychiatrist. He gave me the test over a period of time so I could make the payments as well. He only did an hour session at a time on this test. It's an 8-hour test, so it had taken 8 weeks. And what ended up happening, I needed it the first time for college at Cabrini, when I went to Cabrini. My IQ score was 76, so he kept that off. Why? Because you go to a 4-year private school and they find out that they got somebody who's borderline retarded, who's actually got a 3.0. That doesn't look very good for the school, so he left that out. My IQ score was 2 percentage points higher from the last time I had taken it. Well, Walter, you seem to be pretty good with all these numbers. Well, that's the thing. I strive in certain areas. In other areas, I am basically on a line that would consider me retarded. So am I upset about that? I can't do anything about it. One time I actually did, probably by the request of my job, I did get a brain scan done. The test results were given to a neurologist. He looked at the scans. My friend Matt laughed about it. Yes, you did, Matt. And he said, well, there is a lot of dead tissue in my head, my brain. There's like big chunks of it that are just dead brain matter. Is that normal? No, I don't think so. Do you use your entire brain? No, you only use like a fraction. Like in your whole entire lifetime, no matter how smart you are, you're only using a small percentage of your brain. So there's that dead tissue doesn't really hurt me either way. It's just, basically a vacant lot where there's nothing there and nothing's going to actually be added to what I can learn because it's dead brain matter. You don't grow new brain cells. So just let that guy know who likes to incriminate me. And this, I can get a neurologist. I have right in my hands, or not physically, I have the disc of the brain scan, which I have online too. And it shows black spaces in my head, which are dead brain matter. So if you find that funny, congratulations for being an idiot. So I think the guy who is the defendant of the person at work is an idiot, but that's just my opinion. And, for somebody who's saying that with a 78 IQ, really makes you look pretty dumb, because I know more than you do, and I have less brain capacity than you do, meaning the guy at this defendant at my old job. So it's pretty pathetic on his part. So, but I have proof, and it will stick up in any court and any law. So if you want to fight that, go right ahead, because you have no really grounds that you're you have no concrete evidence that I am like pretending this stuff. When it's written down, I have gone through the loops for this other job, and all they do is just continually incriminate me and try to make me look like I'm like much smarter than I appear to be, because I do a podcast. Put my mouth up to a mic that I plug into the back of my computer, and that's all I do, does not make me a rocket scientist. A 3-year-old can do that, dude. So just to let you know, it doesn't take a genius to do that. The program itself that I use to record this stuff, all I did was I downloaded it, I plugged in my mic, and the mic does the rest, and that's all there is. I don't know how the program works. I have no clue. I try to figure it out. I don't know how it works, and I'm not lying about that either. So anyway, I did say this earlier, but me, my friend Matt, Ed Rick, and his female friend, we went down. Carol is her name. So Carol, hi. If you would listen to Walter's iWalter, thank you for coming along last night. Guys, thank you for telling me about this. But we were talking to this guy, Joe Bob Briggs, and it was pretty interesting. He actually worked in Philly at one point. I think he said on the Philadelphia Inquirer or something. He was a reporter. He's like a Texan guy, but he did at one point come out of Philadelphia, at least as a reporter. So I was questioning last night, for one thing, okay, what's this guy's political agenda? Because he's talking about people that are rednecks. He includes himself as one, how rednecks basically formed movies and social media, or movies mainly, and how they continue to do so, like with different movies like Deliverance and things like that. So it was kind of cool, very uncomfortable, because unfortunately, you might have seen on my prior podcast, the room that he was talking in down in Philadelphia, I didn't drive, my friend Matt did. He drove everybody down. Was about twice the size of my bedroom. And that's not saying much. And that's including where things like the booth for all the engineers' equipment for the audio segments that were being, or media that was being presented behind Joe Bob Briggs, that would be included in the room span of my bedroom twice over. And that would include the bathroom. That would include the front door and the back door. It was basically a glorified room that was not very big, and it only held a certain amount of people. It was really cool to meet him. Not a big Joe Bob Briggs fan, as my friend, or our friend Matt and I, as Ed Rick, who really likes Joe Bob. But it was definitely interesting. Yeah. And some of the movies he was mentioning, I did see. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was one of them. An exploitation film Matt and I had seen years ago at some movie marathon for exploitation films. Now, there's different types of exploitation films. There's exploitation. There is sexploitation. That means there's sex involved. Not that you see a lot, but it's called sexploitation. Then there's called black exploitation. We've seen all three. There's a big demand for those old, bad, they came out in the 70s, basically, maybe even beforehand. But these exploitation films, me and Matt do it once a year. We don't go to the one in Philly. I go to the one in Phoenixville. Matt goes to the one in Phoenixville. It's around the house. Those aren't really the typical exploitation films. They're more like horror exploitation, that it's called Splatterfest. That they're horror movies, and they're based from Italian directors. It's called Italian Splatterfest. And that generally, I try to keep awake, but I usually fall asleep, honestly. The funny thing is, The one exploitation thing we went to, it was 12 hours long. Me and Matt and I went to years ago down in Philadelphia. I actually started falling asleep after the first film went on screen. I literally was starting to fall asleep. And I had like, okay, this is not even 5 minutes in. I got 12 hours to go. It was horrible. So I just wanted to say that, Again, I have enough, like I said, that I don't really need to pull up stories. Maybe I should get this out of the way. Thank you so much, Todd. You sent me this story on, heard it on Rush Limbaugh the other day. Well, this guy was like so convinced. He was only 26 years old, this guy. He got killed from going to some, what do you call it, uncivilized area. And I forget, I'm trying to look at it real quick because I don't want to, it's a long thing. An American man who was killed by an isolated tribe on a remote Indian island wrote to his parents hours before his death. He wanted to declare Jesus to be to the tribes people, and that they should not be angry at them, meaning his parents, or at God if he gets killed. Well, he did. He got arrowed to death. So there's some areas on this planet where there are people who have never seen civilization. This Indian island that he persistently went to, he did get arrowed to death, was a tribe that has not ever seen civilization at all. And it says that this particular tribe or on this island goes back 30,000 years. So the tribe is 30,000 years old, meaning that they've never had any contact with anybody from the outside world. So they survived for 30,000 years that way. This guy decides to basically, it decides like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to try to make these people believe in God. Well, it got him killed. And it wasn't like a one-time deal. He did it numerous times. So I heard it on Rush. My friend Todd posted it on Facebook. Kind of as a subtle joke, not with the guy getting killed. He understands that's not funny. What he was doing the subtle joke about is these migrants coming up through Mexico. That's a different story that I do want to mention. But these migrants coming up the coast. So I'm going to see if I can, without ruining it, see if I can still get a recorder. I just turned my volume all the way off. See if I'm still getting a signal. I think I am. Okay. So, because my parents were going to call me when I asked them not to do anything like that, and then they'll come up on my recording. So, the bottom line is, yeah, there's certain things you just can't change, and this guy thought he could do it, and he got himself killed. And, it's like one of these things, you should have learned your lesson. You got, like, he was carrying a Bible that was protected in some type of sealed bag at one point. And, they kind of gave him a warning, like these tribes people, they don't speak any English, but they did try to, stay away. You're going to get yourself killed. We don't want to be bothered by you at all. I'm putting in Walter's terms, layman's terms. So that wasn't enough for this guy. So he was persistent. He actually paid somebody to take him closer to this tribe. Well, he got close, all right, because he had, basically, I don't know how else to put it, so I'm going to put it in my terms, probably not the correct one. But he had a plethora of arrows. They're not going to be able to retrieve his body at this point because, if this civilization, or whatever you want to call it, has not been touched by the outside world for 30,000 years, what makes you think that things are going to change? It kind of reminds me of that time where that guy, that kid went to like an Asian country, defied their laws, and end up getting flogged as a punishment. And U.S. try to step in and say, you can't do that. Well, he's not on U.S. soil, so we can do what we want. He defied our laws. Which brings up an interesting point when I bring up my next topic. So some people just don't learn until they do get themselves either seriously hurt or killed. So the one incident, the guy got himself like he didn't get killed, but he got flogged, which is like some type of ass whipping, literally. In some Asian country. That happened years ago. I can't remember everything about that. This guy goes to these Indian islands, as they were called, and just thinks that he can really just change a uncivilized tribe of savages. And they were known for being that way. Well, he got himself killed. Are we supposed to like feel sorry for this guy for being such an idiot? I don't think so. You know what? And even this one thing, I don't really know enough to talk about this, but I'm going to try to anyway. This situation where this guy got himself, this reporter got himself killed in another area of the world, and that now Trump says, well, I forget, isn't it a Middle Eastern country that this guy basically goes in, this reporter, and tries to, get a story or something and gets himself killed. Like, he literally gets tortured to death. And Trump just says, listen, you know what? There is nothing I can do about this. It will ruin our, It will ruin our negotiations. It's like, I'm trying to think which country this is. But he basically said, yeah, it's going to, is justifying one person who did get brutally killed, which he had, put himself into the situation himself. Do we need to, create a dangerous situation for everyone else because we need to justify this one man getting basically torn apart physically while he was alive from some country in the Middle East or something like that? So again, I'm really not sure what I'm talking about, but I got a little bit of a cloudy thought on this. So no, we're not going to jeopardize, what is it, like how many millions of people in this country for one person who decided to take upon himself to go in a territory that was obviously, I don't care, was a dangerous area. You don't do that. And if you do, you're taking your life, you're risking your life in your own hands. It's not our responsibility. It sounds really cruel, but it's the truth. So same thing with this guy who got himself killed from going into, uncharted territory that has never been touched by society. It is also pretty much the same thing with this guy who got himself arrowed, who got himself arrowed to death, the guy who got himself flogged, and this guy who got himself killed somewhere in the Middle East. You make this dangerous situation. You take this upon yourself, and then you try to, not maybe them, but other people, because the very last word from the guy who got arrowed to death in the Indian Islands, as they called it, was, I don't want to die. At first he says, well, I think I'm going to have to do this in the name of God. I'm going to go on this missionary mission, whatever, this this thing to teach teach God to these savages, and I understand I might get myself killed. And then when he is pretty much looking at death's door, oh, I don't want to die. Well, you know what? You probably should have put yourself in that situation, but you did. And whose fault is that? Is it our fault? No. The guy who got himself flogged again, but apparently it should be. Is it our responsibility? No. The reporter, who was somewhere in the Middle East, and her political beliefs are not the same as ours. Is that our fault for the guy who got arrowed to death? Again, I might be repeating 3 different situations. People put themselves in those predicaments. And it's one man in this country who's got to take care of millions of people. Out of millions, does something he's supposed to be singled out and, everything should, fall upon him. Like, forget about the other so many millions of people in the U.S. Just think about that one person who's dying. Where was that at? Where our embassy was attacked under Obama administration? And because she was our foreign affairs person. But you know what? That's a different story. It's just ridiculous. By the way, I'm looking at this right now. There's this video I totally forgot I put up camera. This is completely off the subject. And underneath its caption, it says, "A white, your thoughts." That's what it's titled. It's a white girl, just to let you know. But she's literally, her boyfriend had abused her. Does that shock me? Yes. No. Is it fake news? I seriously doubt it. If you look at the video, I seriously doubt it. Off the subject, I know. So anyway, I clarified two things. I didn't even get to the main point yet that I want to talk about, which would be with Jody Whittaker. Tim Pool, he does some video. He's a socialist, young guy, socialist, who's Pool. I think it is spelled like Pool, P-O-O-L with an E on Tim Pool. Really smart guy. He did vote for Bernie Sanders, and so the guy was kind of pissed off about that. Tim is a very smart man. He in the past conservative because he was more believing in socialism than conservatism. Now, here's the thing, by the way. Free healthcare, free education is the way to go, because if you don't have sick people, those people who are better educated are going to go for better jobs if they get the way I thought. From when I thought that way when I was in college, and because when you give stuff to people, not only do they expect it, but they expect more. They don't want free healthcare. They then expect you to give them more and more and more. So the bottom line is, you can't just give things what that is. So, I definitely changed my... I keep wanting to say Tim Cook, which is actually, I think, the CEO for... after Bernie Sanders had lost and, things have happened to the point, it's like, you know what, I had enough. I am still a socialist, but you're supposed to be supporting if I'm a socialist. The closest party I can support that's not on socialism, which would be considered an independent, I would assume, in a nutshell, with Tim Pool talks about a lot. And he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. Both parties perhaps have the Socialist Party, I guess, or the Independent Party, which are actually two different divisions. Or you have on the Republican side, we call ourselves conservatives, because both sides have just had enough of all the political bullshit between the two parties of Republican and Democrat. So the closest I can grasp onto is being a Republican, which back in the past I didn't have a problem with as much as I do now. I did have some socialist ideas when I was in college. I no longer do. But Tim Pool went from, which he still strives by that because he's only 31 or so, has kind of went away from being, okay, I'm a strict socialist to, yeah, I'm a socialist, but I am moving myself as far away from the Democratic Party as I can because they're nuts. So that's what I'm gathering. Again, I don't know if this is true. I'm just saying this. So, I just wanted to mention, but I did write him an email last night, or a text, because I try to find where can I actually let this guy know, hey, dude, I actually, my friend Matt introduced me to him. My friend Matt's more faithful listener and viewer of your stuff, more so than I am. But he likes what you have to say. I like what you have to say, because I told Tim, I don't follow you as closely. You did a couple stories that definitely intrigued me. I told him I think you're a very smart man. I said you had mentioned in one of your his audio podcasts or whatever on YouTube, whatever you call them, these segments, that he is a high school dropout and had never gone to college. He's never, attended any university. And I said, that's surprising because you're a lot smarter than the people who have. And I mean that sincerely. So, yeah, Tim's a very smart guy. And I told him, I said, it's very nice to see somebody who is of the younger age. He fits in that millennial spectrum. And somebody who's very up on the news and the PR articles. I wish I was as much as Tim is. He's got a strong listener or follow, people who follow him, a lot of people who follow him. Not 10 or 20, but by that, probably by a couple thousand, maybe even more. I don't know. I'm just taking an educated guess because I don't have Tim's page in front of me. But he has a lot of listeners, a lot of viewers, and they faithfully follow him because he's not taken either side. He's not, he does say he's a socialist, but I told Tim, I said, dude, we had more people who thought the same way or speak the same way you do and had more of an open mind instead of like the way I put it, which is true nowadays. You got people who are the parties to them are like the Eagles against the Dallas Cowboys. I'm just using this as analysis. It's not about, okay, Republicans have this that they support and the Democrats have this that they support. No, it's about, okay, the Eagles again are playing the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, who's going to win? That's what it's about. Not about other things. Well, it is about other things too. But if you tear it down to the nitty-gritty, it's about, okay, which team's going to win, not which party's going to win. Which party is going to actually change the values of this country for the better or worse. It's about which team is going to win. Which sports team is going to win. That's exactly what it's about. And then if it's not about that, it's about, okay, how much you're going to give me for free. And again, like I said, I thought that way in the past, but that's just going to put you into more of, as a country as a whole, into more economic debt. That's why you can't do that. So I'm just letting you know. So, but anyway, Tim thinks outside the box. He does have his political view, which is socialism, but he will look at both sides, and more. And it's like, dude, thank you for doing that. So, yeah, I wanted to thank Tim for that, and I thank Matt for that. I don't follow Tim Cook like Matt does. I'm almost going on an hour, by the way. And I just wanted to strongly specify that. Again, I didn't get to the Jodie Whittaker thing, so this will probably be over an hour. And I'm not backing down on that I like Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor Who. I did tell Tim Cook he did do that one segment on Doctor Who, how it's become more of a political stance as opposed to a show on entertainment. Yes, he is right, but at the same time, I did kind of clarify with him that in the past, I mentioned 2 episodes of Doctor Who. One was called The Sunmakers, who have Tom Baker, and they basically said the producer at that time based out politics. And before that, years before, there was many more that were similar to this. And I mentioned this a million times. There was an episode from or like this, where basically, what is it? There was an episode, politics. They didn't even try to hide the fact. It was about political views on, basically they said a lot of John Pertwee's episodes under this one producer that was such a liberal that every episode had incorporated something about power. You want to take this, and unfortunately they kind of overstressed with John Pertwee would do it, Tom Baker. They still did not take the entertainment, okay, now this is going too far, which I don't really think so, personally. But for this other story I wanted to mention, I heard this on Glenn Beck the other day, and I do got to mention this before I go any further with the Doctor Who thing. And right now, I am going on close to an hour. But Glenn Beck basically talked about, it was the best of Glenn Beck on Saturday. I had off 4 days so far. And it's been a nightmare because I had to drop my car off. I think I mentioned this probably earlier on the show. And I won't have my car back on Monday. So I got to call work or the temp agency I work for and let them know, should I just take the whole day off? I'm not doing this deliberately. Otherwise, I will be very late if this is a problem, I will ask my father to drop me off at work, but he'll have to pick me up too. Because otherwise, if I take what's called Lyft, it'll cost me $50 to go to and from work, which means... Anyway, there's a story from the Blaze, and I heard it on the Blaze, actually, covered on Planned Parenthood, how it's such a joke. So I found this this past week on how Planned Parenthood says that Planned Parenthood, the whole purpose of Planned Parenthood, that child. Well, it's not about that, and they openly admit about it. That's a lie. A over-glorified abortion clinic. TheBlaze.com. Glenn Beck examines Planned Parenthood. A popular argument of Planned Parenthood supporters has been abortion, including prenatal care. Putting this claim to inquire about the prenatal care, and in 92 cases, the call-ins that these places did say that. Glenn Beck and the guy of its exposure. And they said it was like, I'll tell you, dude, there are people who lived through Planned Parenthood but got aborted, that it was enough for, like, number was high on the amount of deaths over the years. To see more for them, live weekdays from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern, or anytime on ready tonight, because I'm still really disgusted. So anyway, that was, because this is one thing that also, two things, there's many things that piss me off. That's why I'm doing this radio show the way I'm doing it now, or podcast, as I call it, or what it really is. I asked this girl, Stephanie Grace, really good singer, cute girl, young, she's only 21, and I saw her one time, and hey, I want to see you play live. You mind if I take some pictures? And I did. I talked to her a little bit. My friend Matt went along with me. I would not go by myself, and Matt did go with me the first time. And she said, oh, why don't you come back? I'm playing again. And she lives, outside of Pottstown in Douglasville. And I said, oh, yeah, that'd be cool. And I did not show up deliberately, because I know if I did, it would turn into a whole thing that she's going to understand that, listen, I'm interested in you because you're local. You have a very good voice, and I'm going to kind of like live off or cash in a little bit on ratings on doing an interview with you if I can, or taking pictures of you, because nobody cares about Walter. Nobody even knows who Walter Narani is. Nobody gives two shits about me. So I do this stuff on the sole purpose that it will get me ratings. Not a lot, but enough just to keep me up my head above water, barely. So the next time she played in Pottstown, she played twice. I did not show up deliberately. I acted like I was too busy. But let's face it, the real reason is I don't want to hear this whole thing. Well, you know what? I'm emotionally involved with with another man, which is like, okay, what does this have to do with me wanting to cash in on what little success you have? It has nothing to do with it. But you ask a guy, hey, can I do a podcast? Can I take pictures of you? I'm a big fan of yours. Right away, the last thing on their mind is, well, this guy is trying to hit on me. This guy wants to have sex with me. You never hear that from the guy unless he's a homosexual. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I'm just being brutally honest. You tell a girl, hey, I want to do a podcast with you. And I actually did text her, like, I would say probably about 4 days at this point ago. 4 days ago. And she generally gets back with a day or two. I said, listen, I'm not interested in you. I'm going to be brutally honest. I want to do a podcast with you. You name the place, I'll do it. But my main sole focus is, I'm not going to lie about it, because I'll get some hits. I'll do a podcast with you. Your friends are listening. Your family will listen in. I have no interest in anything else. I think you have some talent. I want to cash in on it on a podcast. I mean, that is brutal, but it's honest. Nowhere in there, when I texted her, did I say, yeah, I want to go out on a date with you. I didn't say that at all. I have no interest at all. So I know, Matt, you're going to say, well, yeah, actually, you do have sexual interest. Well, Matt, let me put it this way. Not to single you out, but I am. But I don't mean it in a hard way. Remember last night when Ed Rick was telling you, oh, you have you have some type of sexual love interest in, what is her name? The girl at Andy's Diner. And you said downright you don't. And, dude, you made that very clear to me, and I believe you. I honestly do believe you, Matt. When you said that, what do you call it? Months ago, years ago, whatever it's been, since we started talking to that one woman who's a waitress at because I did forget her name, believe it or not. I was saying it constantly last night. When I see her, I can remember her name. Not her not being here, I forget. And, dude, you talk to every waiter and waitress at Andy's Diner and Kanchi the same way. I have never seen you. You're just that type of person. You're very forward and upfront. I think Ed was just pulling your chain on that by saying that, oh, Matt, I know he was pulling your chain, but I'm just saying. My point is, when you said you're not interested in, God, I wish I could remember her name, the waitress at Andy's Diner, it's probably best if I don't know it, honestly. I believed you because you said that before. And trust me, because you asked me right out, you know that Stephanie Grace has a boyfriend. I said, yeah, I don't care. I liked her the same way that I like Taylor Swift. I like Taylor Swift's music. Does that mean I want to take her in the bed? No, I just like her music. There's a lot of different entertainers. I love Depeche Mode. That doesn't mean I want to sleep with them. David Kahan or Martin Gore. Plus, I'm not gay. I love The Cure. Does that mean I want to sleep with him? No, because I'm not gay. You love Billy Corgan, so I should just tell you right off the bat. Well, if you love Billy Corgan's music, minus his new album, does that mean you want to sleep with him, Matt? No. And it's the same thing with Lady Gaga. For me, Taylor Swift, Selena Gomez. I make jokes about it, but that's all they are. They're jokes. When you meet these people in person, 9 times out of 10, you get kind of bored of them really quick. Because all they are is they're human beings just like everyone else. I mean, it's just the fame that gets to you at first, and you have fun talking to them because they obviously established themselves. They make millions of dollars. And, it's just that whole starlight. You meet these people, it's really cool. But that kind of like, if you met them on a daily basis, trust me, that luster or that interest you have in him would kind of fizz out really fast. And that's just a fact. So going back to the Stephanie Grace thing, I knew this was going to happen kind of in the back of my mind. That's why I made it very clear when I texted her. I got to look for that text. I'm afraid to look. I told my friend Matt, I told my friend Todd, if you want to see the text, I will cut and paste it, and I will send it to you. But nothing in there said anything about any asking for a date, any love interest. I laid it as plain as day. I'm just letting you know, the purpose of doing this is because I heard a voice in the background, is for no other reason that I want to do a podcast and it will get me a couple hits. And I mean a couple hits. There might be 50, if I'm lucky, maybe 100 hits. And that's fine. I'll take that because I get 0 hits. So that's the whole purpose of doing this. So what does she do? I said, and I wrote at the very end of the text, I'd appreciate, either way, can you just get back to me and say you're not interested? I'll understand. Just let me know. So she totally blows me off. Excuse me, I just hit my thing. She totally blows me off at this point. And she redesigns, because she told me, I have an Instagram page. Why don't you check it out? I saw her on Facebook from my friend Todd. And that, I hate to tell you, but that was on a goof because my friend Todd sent it to me as a joke, him and his brother, because they thought it was funny that there's a country singer that lives out of Douglasville. And it was like, I listened to her. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I figured, well, okay, she has a lot of possibility to become really big. She could be like the next Taylor Swift. She could be the next Pink. She could be the next Will Smith. But you got to market yourself correctly. So my interest, and I told her right out, I said, before you become something like a big celebrity, I like to do a podcast with you and say, hey, and I did say this in what I wrote her in the text. I want to say that I got, to do an interview with you before you became big. And I was being totally honest. Nothing in her says about, I want to have a relationship with you. Not at all. So she turns around. She blows off the text I sent her. Just ignores it completely. And then she starts redesigning her Facebook and Instagram page. And she puts up all these pictures of her and her boyfriend. So, you know, if a record company sees that, I mean, I don't know any better, but I would think they want to see somebody who is more focused on the business than focused on, well, I hang out with a bunch of girlfriends at Ots. Or that I got 100 pictures up of me and my boyfriend together to give this guy the clarification I'm not interested in him. Okay, that's like really immature, Stephanie. So, you know, just to let you know, nobody wants to see a bunch of pictures of your social life. I mean, if you're a celebrity who has established themselves, like Taylor Swift, Miley Cyrus, yeah, then like certain people will take an interest in, like, wow, you know, that's the big thing about stars. Stars, they want to see, you know, what they do, the dirt and the gossip in their personal life, because the news, like, sucks it up. If you're starting out, like, there was a band around here, I think I might have mentioned it to her, named the Bloodhound Gang. That might have been even in the thing. And, you know, I saw from day one, years ago, my friend Matt didn't see it, but they're not around anymore. They're not even heard of. But they were well known throughout the globe. I mean, they did concerts overseas. Not that everybody heard of them at this point. Probably nobody at this point had heard of them. But they were actually played on the radio. They were on back when MTV actually showed regular music videos. They don't do it any longer. Anyone's worth watching. The Bloodhound Gang was on there. They were known everywhere. They were from Pottstown or somewhere around there. How did the Bloodhound Gang, I can't remember their names, but the main guy in the band, how did he establish himself? Well, he actually ended up doing interviews with everyone. He actually did, I believe he was actually hired to be an intern, I believe, at one point, if I remember correctly. I'm probably totally off on this, so I apologize. He was supposed to do an interview or be an intern on Howard Stern, and he turned it down because he got a record deal. Did he mention, well, I party and I hang out with my best friends, which he did that stuff, or I'm going to put up, you know, crap ton of pictures of my girlfriends? No, because he know that would not sell a record deal. People don't care when you're starting out that you have a boyfriend, you have a girlfriend, you have an incredibly boring social life that nobody wants to hear about. They don't want to hear that because that's not going to sell shit. That's not going to sell even the shirt off your back. What's going to sell is that you promote yourself in the way that, okay, I know how to sing. If it's, you know, a person who's I'm going to say this word wrong, a musician, or if you're a film person, Eli Roth, which I couldn't remember his name at first, who did Cabin Fever, Hostel, and other things. Did he promote? Well, I have a girlfriend. I think that's more important because I don't want anybody to hit on me, any women. No, he went on Stern, and he talked about his movies, Cabin Fever. He did, again, Hostels. He did the Hostel movies. He did that movie called Green Inferno. And a couple other movies that are really interesting. You don't sell yourself on, well, I have I'm self-reliant on my self-importance, and that I sell myself by telling you I have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and that I hang out at the local malls. Nobody's going to want to hear that because that's not going to sell shit. What they want to hear is what you have. You got to sell yourself, and you got to sell your music. You got to sell your scripts. You got to sell your material. I mean, I'm not going to, like, which I don't have at this point, I'm not going to make money by telling a Fortune 500 company, for me, if I was going to go that direction, that in an interview, well, you know what, I have, and they do check this now. They check your social media pages. I know this for a fact. They now do, they forewarn you, if you go for any type of job, watch what you put up online, because they are going to use that against you on determining if they're going to hire you or not. If they see a bunch of pictures of you hanging out, getting intoxicated, hanging out with a group of friends, acting goofy, or a crap ton of pictures of you and your boyfriend or you and your girlfriend, they're going to find like you not to be a responsible, mature adult. They're going to see you as somebody who hasn't grown up yet. And I'm just letting you know. So I'm looking right now. I'm going to look at this one page because I have a couple people. One was a coworker. His name's John. And there's another woman that I'm a friend on Facebook. Her name is Debbie Cortez. She's really good. Her whole stance is on politics. So 99% of the stuff she puts up, and she's not even professional, is on conservative politics. It is not on, I have a boyfriend, I have a girlfriend, my nieces and nephews or my grandchildren. No. Once in a while, once in a blue moon, Debbie puts something up like that. 99.9% of her stuff is sticking to her agenda, which is her concerns about the political issues in the United States. And that's perfect. That's the way it should be. If you're going to run, like I have a professional page for iWalter on Facebook. Do I put up pictures of me with girls, me hanging out with a bunch of guys? No, if it doesn't pertain to my podcast, and I'm going to look at that right now, it does not go up on that page. I have my personal Facebook page, which is completely different, but that is also has a particular agenda, which excludes a lot of things that I would have probably posted years ago. Now, you're going to say, well, Walter, you're 51. You're talking about a 21-year-old. You're also talking about a person who, again, was placed in a mental health facility in an apartment living program, but at the age of 19 was thrown out of his house, had no choice but to leave his home, and, had to take responsibility to be an adult. Nowadays, people don't want to grow up. They want to act like children their entire life until, from cradle to grave, they have this need to act like a child. They don't want to grow up. And this is what, when you have a competitive market, especially in entertainment, guess what the first thing they're going to look at? Okay, how mature is this person acting? Like, for instance, this is a good example. My friend Matt does not have a Facebook page. Unfortunately, I do. My friend Matt does not have, he does, but it's only for business use. He has a Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All are for streaming, streaming or getting hits, so they will eventually go to his business pages. And everything Matt does is strictly business. Okay, I'm looking at my page. I got a couple goofy pictures, but there's nothing that's out of the realm of like, I got a social life with my boyfriend or my girlfriend, because is that going to boost my morale with other people, or my morale, or is it going to boost other people's morale? We better listen to this guy Walter because he has such a social life. It's going to do jack shit for me. In fact, it's going to do the opposite. It's going to turn people off, like what do you call it? Oil and water. Like, it's going to separate me from my callers. I saw something that said caller. It's going to separate me from my listeners. I'm going to get less and less listeners. And the best thing you can do to piss people off is act like you're still in high school. I'm just saying. Now, I sound like the one guy at work said he calls himself the angry black guy. He's a black guy I talk to. He's really funny. He likes me. But, yeah, he calls himself the angry black guy. Well, I'm the angry white guy. And I am angry because I'm so sick and tired. You ask something out of somebody that has nothing to do with sex, and yet it turns into a sexual thing for them. This guy's hitting on me. It's like, you'll get nowhere with that. And I do mean that girl, Stephanie Grace. I just have to say that. The professional thing to do would be say, hey, Walt, you know what? This would be great. We will do a podcast together. You pick the place, restaurant, wherever, a public library. I don't give a fuck. Because they have those rooms you can actually just, meeting rooms. I know Monco does, Montgomery County Community College, because I used those in the past. Not for podcast, but for other things, like their discussion rooms. You can do it in there. Bring a loved one. Bring somebody along. I don't care. And we're doing the podcast. They just can't talk. Simple and stupid. And again, it won't help her, but it definitely would help me. So why is she going to do it? Well, the professional thing also to do is to answer the person back and not act like a 2-year-old. Sorry. And I doubt she's going to hear this. So, and even if she does, maybe she'll learn something from it for the next time she acts like that with somebody else. Because it's not professional whatsoever. I don't care who you are. And, I had that friend Matt. Matt, you've told people off who actually have a following of people of, like that chick Pink from Philadelphia area that I think you got in discussion with her and her husband, like, hey, you don't have the balls to probably answer me back, but if you want me to, I'll discuss it with your husband. I don't give a fuck. Not that you said it that way. I'm saying it that way. But, I'm the same way with this whole thing with this Stephanie Grace thing. It's like, dude, or whatever. I'm not doing it to ask for a date. I'm doing it because it will benefit me. And if you want to help somebody out, which would be me, I would be more than happy to do it because you're definitely going to help me. And I was basically going to tell her, like, hey, if you do this for me also, the other thing is, you can use the podcast. I'll give it to you because it's your voice. It's you. You market it whatever the way you want to. I'll record it for you. You take it. And it will benefit me even again because not only will it benefit her, the fact that sure have something, hey, I can use this as a marketing tool. I'll just use it to, market my way. Well, my name's going to be on there because the name of the show is iWalter. So bottom line is, it's good in that way. So last segment, because what am I at? Probably an hour and a half. I don't know. I don't even know. So, I'm at actually an hour and a half. So I'm almost an hour and 17 minutes. So the last thing might take another 2 minutes. Who knows? But the whole thing that really pisses me off at this point with, because she tried so hard, is my last story. And this is where You're Fired, I Quit comes into play with the name of the episode. Is Jodie Whittaker is the first female actress to play Doctor Who. They're saying, well, the actor or the character is an alien, doesn't specify any sex or origin. Let me rephrase that. The origin, it does exist. It's a fictional, science fictional character. Doctor Who is an alien. The alien genders, male, female. Due to political, where the character apparently can change, they decided to start doing. And then they change, or almost, what would that be considered when they're both sexes? So that whole thing has become, what do you call it? Another story like, oh, well, who says that Doctor Who was always a male when at one point it could have been a female? So, it's just nonsense. That was never in the original storyline. They had specifically from day one, who the original producer of the show, Doctor Who, was going to be a male character from the get-go, has a time machine who goes through all sorts of history and it was supposed to be an educational show for children. That was the original idea. Due to political corruption, they did decide to change. He can the alien. Since it's an alien, it's not male or female. It can be that person can regenerate not only its sex, but its skin color as. So it got way out of hand. I was a little bit kind of like taken back at first, so I did some look. Did like what she had to say, or what she acted in, and it was good. So I didn't have a problem. Been playing the part pretty much as neither a male or a female. There's a couple jokes put in there, so I don't have a problem with that. But the problem, Whitaker is a feminist. Now, being a feminist, I don't have a problem with as long as throat. But when she does like these interviews and, she's thing to do with that I'm a woman, this was, it just got way out of hand. I had, grew up with. Now, on TV, I don't see any of that stuff. So I'm fine with that. But, I don't want, again, shoved down my throat that will, this show nonsense like that. I've never heard of it, like the way it's been explained to the large extent. Again, the way she played the character on the show so far, I actually really enjoy her. I have not had one problem with her. But why it upsets me all of a sudden, apparently, I read some article where Jodie Whittaker has to get this part. And now all of a sudden, it's the director or producer, because I need to get more specific. I'm not doing a very good job. So I apologize. As the new producer, I forget his name. You got to stop this nonsense. We had taken you because we wanted to show that we are Muslim descent, people of color, the whole 9 yards. We want to be as a new producer. And it was like, it's been going that direction since the last producer. Talking about. And it ends in misery. And it happened to be characters so much that they thought they knew what they were doing. And it ended up miserably failing. So guess what they do? They fire Colin Baker and they blame him. They threw him up. Nothing to do with Colin Baker. And the same thing's happened again with this producer. It has happened with Jodie Whittaker. It's the ratings have, they have dropped. I actually really stopped watching every episode. I try to keep an open mind, but it was really difficult. It was with them because it was just getting so bad. Jodie Whittaker was a refreshing change. I didn't care that she was a woman. I actually did enjoy her episode so far. But there is some digs against. But honestly, there was 2 episodes that were just plain god-awful. There was one where a man gets pregnant. In the future, men get pregnant. And that was another one I just couldn't stand. It was like, God, I watched it live. Never again I will watch an episode. That's exactly when it is. And placed on, on my stream. I'll watch it because I'm not going to watch it live ever again. Because it was just like a kid death. And I will not do that again. So, that being said, that was the last time I've watched a live episode, but I've actually enjoyed them. But getting back to the point, which I haven't, has gotten to the point, it's like, okay, well, I'm not getting what I want out of this. I'm deeply offended in so many words or less. Not his words, my words. So, guess what? Jodie Whittaker wants to quit, too. Well, that's fine and dandy, but, you fall, because I don't think that of her, but you're a big feminist. You're fighting for equal rights. You defeated a difficult thing that a show that's 55 years old, Doctor Who is 55 years old, the TV show from when it first, that leap that you're the first Doctor Who is a female, and you're doing actually, I think, a pretty damn good job. If my, quit, my producer, who's my boss, guess what? I'm quitting too. That's very, very professional of you. you fought for a job that now all of a sudden you don't want. And you know what the other reason is? She says, well, I don't have enough time to spend with my kid. Okay, well, you just fought for this job, not in 2015 or 2015. You were 17, and you got the job 2016, 2017. This is way after you had a baby. And you're in actor TV shows. You know what it consists of, personal life, to do these shows. All of a sudden, I didn't know that this was to be, my entire life. So don't give this line like you didn't going into this job. You did know this is going to be 100% of your to spend with your new kid. You did know this. You just don't. You had an agenda. You want it. Now you're tired of it. Now you want to play Miss Mom. You want to play the Mrs. Mom. You don't no longer want to do. So her reason is, again, because, I have a kid. I want to spend more time with my kid. Well, you know what? Before you even jumped into the world of Doctor Who, which it's going to follow her the rest of her life, back in 2015, Eccleston quit after 1 year, and he had issues with the producer at the time. There was things he did not want to do. Eccleston, from day one, did not want to do it. He basically, by his agent, you should really take this part because you're being stereotyped of being the bad guy in everything you do. This will, other than ones that are just being the bad guy in every freaking movie. So, blatantly obvious. He played it quite differently from other characters, other people who played Doctor Who as a job. So he played, I'm sorry, I stepped away from my mic. He played it as a character who, Doctor Who pretty much, besides regeneration scenes, that's what he said. But he played it as what he saw it as, an alien. Stupid humans and things like that. It actually worked, though. It actually did work. In many ways, it worked. He really did not want to do. He was actually a known actor. He was in 28 Days Later. That people did know. Not a lot of people, but there was people who knew. Hey, I know this Eccleston guy. He played in, like, G.I. Joe movie. He played in 28 Days Later. He played some villain in some other car chase movie. I can't remember the name of it. So, yeah, they got a known actor for the first time, like somebody who more than just England knew about, because he was in American movies as well. And that was a big selling point. You want to bring a show back that's been, off the air for 16 years. You better get somebody who is a probably better known actor, not somebody unknown. And again, Eccleston really did not want to play Doctor Who, but he did it because, do you see where I'm going with that? But that was different. Again, agent told him to do it. This thing, Jodie Whittaker, she wanted to do it. She wanted just to play a part as a villain on one of the Doctor Who's. So her ex-manager, producer, suggested, well, actually, we're interested, if you are, on put you in the role of Doctor Who, because this producer, and it was a show she played a doctor on, and it only. So, yeah, the thing was, he suggested, you want the part of Doctor Who? That's what I actually had in mind for you. Yes, so she pushed for it. She had pushed for the fucking part. And change that this is not this show that's been sexist for so many years. I want to change this. And I want to make it a show about, that it's diverse and things like that. So you get what you want, and what do? You just get up and quit, because I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be an actress on my child. Wow, that's really that's great. You just wasted, people who I know it's a television program. This show probably like me for 40 years or so. And you got somebody who said that when I was a little kid and, now I'm playing Doctor Who, it's the greatest thing. But really, her whole thing was to enforce her political agenda that it has nothing to do with to play the character. And me being a woman, I would never get the part because of that. It had everything to do that she's a woman and she wanted to prove something. And now that she did, she doesn't want to have it. I'm angry about it then. Well, I'm angry about it because I think she's a good actress. I think if this guy, basically, hey, I'm really sorry about this. I'm sorry that it's not working out for you. I would have said, hey, I really enjoy doing this part. It does take a lot of time, but I'm going to do it for at least another year or two, because I am. Number two, I actually enjoy doing the part. Hey, I'm making a role model for young children, the way Doctor Who has evolved. So again, that would have been fine with that. But her reason for leaving is because he's leaving. The boss who got me my job at Broadshire, which was a total flop, obviously, because who ever heard of a show lasting 4 episodes before it gets canned? Yeah, the show did, horrible. Broadshire, and it's only 4. It's literally only 4 episodes. It got canceled, and you can say what you want, but a producer had gotten a job, as producer of Doctor Who. What do you call it for the show? From Broadshire episodes. I hate to tell you this. There was a show called Scream Queens, episode 1. It was awful. And I stuck with it. Okay, we're going to do 1 season. We might even cancel it. We may even cancel it. But the show was just god awful. And it had its funny moments, but overall, it was just plain bad. So, believe it or not, 2 seasons. It lasted 12 episodes for season 1. The show was only supposed to last, that they were talking about, you know what, we really need to cancel this show. It's just not. And that's at Scream Queens. So, again, a lot with Scream Queens. Broadshire, which was a show Jodie Whittaker and her producer, which I'm not going to even tell. What is it? That lasted 4 episodes, and that's done on BBC. So BBC, even if a show does bad, they can for it if you like it or not. Because who's paying for these programs? Well, Rude Awakening. It's actually in England. So bottom line is a old dog crap, and it's going to last. Let me see where I'm at. I'm probably at 2 hours. No, an hour and a half. Definitely an hour and a half now. So, it's not like the U.S. Okay, this show is so bad, it's like we're losing money. We're like hemorrhaging money. Even with that, so with Scream Queens, it lasted 2 seasons. And I watched both seasons. I actually paid for them at that point because it was like, yeah, I want to check these out. Praying to God that they would get better, and they really did not. But I watched them. I suffered through them. They weren't that bad. Now, I'm just curious because Broadshire, again, only lasted 4 episodes on a network that is paid for by your taxes. So that's not just bad. That's like really pretty scary. So you see where I'm going with that, I think. Maybe not, because I don't even see where I'm going with that. So the bottom line is I'm more of an open-minded person than most people think I am. Grown adult, a man. Hard to get through because, quite honestly, I couldn't understand she had like a over top, like some type of backwoods act, a grown adult stuck in a child's body. It was a really good movie, though. And it is not. It was just for the movie. She had some like really strong Cockney accent. You could not understand a word she was saying. And he said he really wished he could put subtitles, which I think you could on the film because it was that hard to follow. I watched no more, and again, when I saw her as Doctor Who, this is Doctor Who to me. This is why I love Doctor Who. This is why I really liked. She was doing a good job. So I'm like one of the few people who are actually defending this woman. And, like I said, other people, and I think that, would agree with me. Damn it, I'm trying to think. Tim Pool would think the same way, I would believe, who says they, want to do certain things. They don't care about any other agenda except that that's really bad. Like, okay, if you want to make a change, a movement, continue to play the Doctor and Whittaker. It could easily just turn around and she could turn around and just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to play the producer I worked with before, God love him, he gave me this job. I'm going to, in good faith, I'm going to keep the job because I have people who, admire me as Doctor Who, and I'm going to stick with it. Colin Baker, and they, decide to get, because that's what Colin Baker did. I think they gave him the chance to quit, but BBC looked bad. Not him. It made the BBC look bad. I'm trying to think that, hey, what do you call it? It's because BBC got rid of me. That would look much better on her than the other way around. So, to me, it looks really bad on her. It just looks awful. Like, I'm sorry. I'm trying to send these texts. My friend is giving me a hard time about pictures he can't see. So I'm sending everyone now on his instant messenger. So he can't complain. So the professional thing to do, if you want to become an actress and not cut yourself short, in her case, is not to complain that, oh, I don't want to do this anymore because I have a kid. Or that's not complaining though, but not because, oh, I don't want to do this anymore because I have a kid, or you're trying to give my manager a hard time, the producer. That's not proving anything. That's just proving that you're a weak person. That's exactly what it's doing. Well, of being so unprofessional. So I just don't understand that. And at this point, I'm trying to send all these pictures to a friend. Let me just write this friend back real quick. I shouldn't do this on a live show. So let me just write 9 attachments. See you. Let me just roll back. So I'm good at that. I'm very good at that. So I'm doing it again. I only have a couple more attachments. I apologize. Yeah, if I was Jodie Whittaker, I think BBC and marketing alone, just having a fee playing the first Doctor Who, which they played it very carefully, the amount they put into marketing, books, advertisement, dolls, magazines, you name it. It just is not much money into her, which is now a money pit. To me, personally, okay, like, hey, Walter, I'm going to give you a multi-million-dollar job. Stability, I'm entitled to this job. I really, want this job, and they break down. They give me, I'll do this for about a week. With her, it'd be 2 years, but I'll do this for a little bit. But then, you know what? I'm going to quit because I don't feel like doing this anymore. I want this anymore. You know, like a 2-year-old. I don't want this anymore. You a toy that you play with a little bit and then you get tired of it and you throw it on the ground. That's the way I look at Jodie Whittaker. She looks like the child who got her way and no longer she no longer wants to congratulations on that, Jodie Whittaker. You got what you wanted, and now you got it. You don't want it. So, anyway, there was one last thing. I apologize. I got yeah, so anyway, I'm continually getting distracted by this guy. The last thing, I think it's like almost 2 hours. Yeah, it's like an hour and 40 minutes at this point. So I apologize about that big pause. But that's my problem with Jodie Whittaker. I really do like her as Doctor Who. I'm not going to deny it. I'm not doing it because, she's the first woman. I am just saying that because she's a really good actress. And she's just throwing it all away. I think, and I did write her agent, and I told the agent, I said, I hope this is not true. You know, because the only way you can... BBC does not take any of her stuff. They don't even want to be affiliated with her right now. And her, obviously. And they just basically just want to keep themselves separated. Because most actors who play Doctor Who, you can go to the BBC and write fan mail. You cannot do that with her anymore. And they're going to be stuck with her for another year. So there's going to be a lot of tension, I'm sure. If they do another season of Doctor Who, there's going to be so much fucking tension, is my guess. But yeah, the thing is, that was just, hey, that's on them. They were the ones who made this. We got to be so politically correct, and wasted all this fucking money on her. That's now just basically gone down the shitter. I mean, there's no other way to put it. So, yeah, what was I going to say? I feel bad because, again, I had definitely taken an interest in her character, her playing Doctor Who. I felt it was really refreshing that you see somebody who the other actors definitely did do, which is basically panty chase around whoever played the character. I got tired of that with the new series because you never saw that on the old series where the guys were chasing around their companions, like horny toads. I mean, that did happen with, in my opinion, but it definitely happened with Eccleston, slightly with, no, I'm sorry, not with Eccleston, slightly with Eccleston. See, I lost my train of thought again. Definitely with David Tennant, of interest between him and Billy Piper, the characters. And as much as I liked it, I thought it was kind of a bit of an irritation. Matt Smith, obviously, because he was young and flamboyant, definitely there. Matt Smith was a young, good-looking guy with a young girl companion, and it was just like... And, yeah, people liked that, but there was parts in the beginning, because... The way it originally was with Matt Smith, it was a little bit less of that, and they tried to cut that tension that they made the mistake with Tennant, which playing the Doctor. That's why with Tennant, when Piper left, was a woman who had no interest in him at all, which was Catherine Tate. And that was like, they had like this whole thing where the Doctor Who was supposed to be some couple, at first, back when I used to watch it with Tom, all of a sudden they made him like 2,000 years old with the new series. They made him thousands of years old, the Doctor. So you had a, 2 or 3 girl. And it was because they picked these young actors. And again, then they changed to a much older actress who did an incredible job. And they just basically cut because there was no love interest with the Doctor or her. Catherine Tate's character and the Doctor, David Tennant. And that was like one of the best seasons of David Tennant. Left, and I apologize that large mistake on saying Eccleston was the panty chaser because he really wasn't. It was with Tennant and Billy Piper. But that just got really, really disold really quickly because it's not what I'm... I mean, if you're a young kid and you see some hot young actress with a decent-looking guy, it was fantastic. But for younger people, not for me. To me, it was just kind of irritating. That I think themselves, they probably got ratings, people coming in or people complaining about, hey, my kid's watching this, and this is not cool. You know, I watched this when I was a kid. I didn't have the doctor chasing around a 20. So it was a bit irritating. It was good episodes, but it was irritating at the same time. You had, again, Matt Smith, his companion, had a boyfriend and then fiance. But the whole premise was younger guy, supposed to be a 3,000, 2,000-year-old Time Lord who's got a young, hot, in Guardians of the Galaxy, who the first a call girl or something like that, who dressed in a slinky outfit that was a police, and it was like a spandex little skirt and like a halter top. Big, I think, with the viewers, older viewers. But that's what they kind of portrayed. So then right away, obviously, they went for an actor who was... It did actually well, in my opinion, in some episodes, not the first season, because I didn't really like him as a doctor personally. But what did do well, where they get, who I really liked, the second companion, who was a younger black actress. So you have an old man who has a younger lesbian companion. So the whole thing was to make it politically correct, but at the same time made sure there was no hanky-panky going on in the TARDIS, because you're not going to have any hanky-panky with a... They killed two birds with one stone. Unfortunately, I guess that backfired for a lot of people. I met the actress in person, and I just really like comic relief at a lot of points, which was beautiful, and she did such a good job with it. And I didn't have to worry about, because they made sure of that. So when they did change the character to a female Doctor Who, again, just seeing it, yeah, the reason behind it obviously is because they're trying to make a political statement. And I just kind of overlooked that. And they were showing stuff, it's like, wow, this actually looks really interesting. And looks like she might actually be promising. When I saw her in the first episode, it was with an alien that had teeth in its, like, glued to its face. It's like how her character was good. They didn't really even explain what happened between Capaldi and her. They didn't even bother. They completely avoided that whole thing. Episode, which did happen, the TARDIS completely exploded, and she fell out of it. And it was called The Girl Who Fell, or I think it was called it was either called The Girl Who Fell to Earth or the Woman Who Fell to Earth. And I didn't understand it wasn't. The actual reason why they called it The Woman Who Fell to Earth, I really did years ago, was called The Man Who Fell to Earth. It was supposed to be on that line, an alien falls to Earth. What am I at right now? Almost 2 hours. So, yeah, it had nothing to do with, well, it did in a slight matter, but it wasn't the main reason. It was called, again, The Woman Who Fell to Earth, The Girl Who Fell to Earth, because it was supposed to be something related to David Bowie's movie where an alien falls to Earth, and it was called The Man Who Fell to Earth. And I did read that. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I'm open-minded about that. I have no problem with that. I just didn't like the episode. I just thought it was plain awful, the Doctor Who. And again, there was the one where the guy gets pregnant. That one just did not go well with the public at all. So, yeah. But overall, like I said, I personally give it a chance. She's not going to listen to my podcast. Nobody does. Stating, like a private discussion. Right now, it's a private discussion just between me and myself. and I. But what I would do was to stick with it. Hey, okay, I'm losing. Because there has been other actors, Tom Baker's, during his span as Doctor Who. Not just one, but like at least. And generally what he did is he stuck to his guns on what he wanted out of it. Because he would basically what I own on the script. And that pissed everybody off. Apparently he's like a really hard person to work with, Tom Baker. But what he did was, it came to John Nathan Turner. John Nathan Turner was one of the only producers Tom Baker had no luck with, of like saying, okay, I'm going to do what I want. I don't care what you think. I'm going to do what I want to do. And at that point, second longest, because John Pertwee was 5 years. And it was like, okay, enough is enough. I'm tired of doing this part. I did like it at first. Kept me, what do you call it? Trying to think. 7 years, but that time is done. I'm not going to do it anymore. I've had enough fighting with these people. 5 years, and it was 5 solid years. Baker did it like years. None of this nonsense. Well, I'm not getting my way, or I won't get my way, so I'm going to quit and basically pout about it. I'm trying to say what I've said for the last half hour, I guess. If I was Jodie Whittaker, not happy with that, take a stance. Stay with the part. It is your part right now. They invested. BBC has invested or had put a lot of money. I'm not going to use the word vested. Take that back. You up. And what you're going to do is just turn around and say, well, you knew from the get-go. You can look. If you're going to get a part, if you're going to get a job anywhere, what's the first thing you do? Is this going to take me to do this job? How much is it going to consume my time? Because I have things that I need to do in my personal life. It is, you don't apply for that job. That's just the bottom line. So, either she did do that and just didn't care. She just wanted to see that she could do something that was impossible. Or she truly just had no clue, which I don't. What was I going to say? You should go in with some insight what you're getting yourself into as far as the job goes. You don't just jump into there blindsided. I don't think anybody, well, maybe not, obviously, but it seems like that's maybe what she did. I don't know again. I know I certainly would not. I kind of like that. That's my biggest pet peeve, again, with, and I truly don't understand that. But again, woman playing a very difficult part, and most likely when that time comes that she quits, I guarantee you it's going to be like what happened, which is completely different, apples and oranges. I understand that. But I'm just going to say, basically, people are going to see at the B, you know what? That whole political bullshit is out the door. Since it didn't work, we're going to go back to what did work. And that's exactly a character. And I hate to say this. I'm not trying to be sexist or anything. It's going to probably be, is my guess, is going to be a white male. Because they're going to say, you know what, we part. And she was real gung-ho about it. Was going to last. And obviously it did not. It did not work. So we can't afford this again. So I think personally that is what's going to happen. So the only thing she's done is successfully made sure that the future of Doctor Who, probably most likely, is going to have another male character. Stuck with it. And showed that, hey, I can do a decent, at least exactly 3 years. She could have done it for, because that's all that director is going to stay on for, but a full 12, if possible. And then she could have done another season and then, wrapped it up there. I think, and it probably would have won over a lot bigger, and probably, nobody's going to probably, take this whole thing. A few people who really liked her, and then a bunch of people who I I'm going to be really upset about the whole thing either way. I don't know why. It's just a TV show, I understand. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. I went way too long with that. And I apologize because this one friend kept on texting me while I'm doing a live broadcast. I can't see your text. I can't see your text. And it's like, yeah, but I'm doing a live podcast. So, yeah, thank you for that. I mean, you can't see my text. Who cares? Obviously, nobody. So, yeah, one other thing was I did want to mention about these migrants. It's just my friend Todd, that the issue in Mexico, I did have it posted, but these migrants are overtaking Mexico to the point that going on. And it is so bad that they want them out of their country. Mexico do not want these people in their country at all. They want them gone. And it's because they are just ripping apart Mexico. They have enough problems with drug cartels and other issues. But now they got to deal with all these onslaught of all these people in these caravans cutting through, basically plowing through Mexico. Mexico was trying to be good to these people and giving them some type of temporary housing, a place to settle if they want to stay there, and food. And they're turning around, and there was one woman in particular they show a lot from Mexico who said, I don't want to deal with this anymore because we're trying to help these people out, and they're saying that we're treating them like we're feeding them basically dog food. That was their statement. Like, wow, you're a foreigner from another country, and you're invading Mexico, plowing through there and destroying it, and your only response is that, they're not treating us well. They're feeding us dog food. That's their response back. These people in these caravans, and some of them are like really big. They're kind of hefty. Some of these people. So they're not like starving. They're not starving Marvin. They're not starving. They look overfed. And then they want like gourmet meals, apparently, because they don't like what Mexico is giving them as far as food. And I looked at what they're giving them, and it actually found the city yesterday with my friends. And I felt this guys that came up to me that live on the street begging for money on the freaking street of Philadelphia. And they're being overlooked like they don't have a place to live. It was pouring down rain yesterday. These guys were just asking. I truly felt bad for these people. And I don't have any extra money. I had barely enough to get down there myself, but I didn't drive, so I'd have. And the bottom line is, you don't hear about them like getting any help or any free meals through Mexico, who are complaining about they're not being treated right. And are you kidding me? We got people in our streets and have no place to live, have no money. And, well, you know what? You stay where you came from, what country you came from, and you tried to change that situation, make it to the U.S. so we can pay for everything for you. And we got people who can't even have a roof over their head. Really, seriously? Holland, for one thing. I don't know what else to say. It's just really disgusting. The whole caravan thing that just, quite honestly, it just drives me like that are making their way to the U.S. I did see these people in these caravans. If you try to get a border, cross the border illegally into our country, you might have made it through Mexico. Forget it, because we are going to use, keep you out. And if you have a problem with that, that whole thing of, like my friend Todd says, it's that sense of entitlement. So nonsense like that has got to stop. Who literally don't have a roof over their head, where their next meal's coming from, and that is serious. We should be worrying about, some of these people that are on the streets. By the way, they or people that did have, like myself, fortunately for me, had a history of mental illness, and that, there is nobody to take care of them now. And that's bad. That is really, really bad. That is sad. The whole thing to me is just, again, it's just like disturbing that, these, these foreigners who basically feel like they're entitled to stuff. They're, sense of entitlement, and that we need to give everything up that we believe in because these people are victimized. That's bullshit. So that's another thing. This episode has lasted 2 hours. It's exactly 2 hours. I just was babbling on. Needed to get this off my chest. I have plenty more to talk about. I could talk for like 4 hours straight, but I'm just trying to prove a point in one way. And prove that, this whole nonsense with people and blaming others, not want to take responsibility, it's ridiculous. It's out of hand. And it's definitely way out of control. I did remember something I wanted to say, so it's going to be over 2 hours. Let you know right now. I wanted to say this at the beginning of the show, and I never did. I had the worst Thanksgiving, and this will be the end of the show. I promise you it will be the end of the show. My Thanksgiving was fighting with my father about money. It's always about money. It says actually 2 hours, 24 minutes, actually. That's unbelievable. So this is a rather long show. This will be a 3-hour show. What was I going to say? My dad is a very frugal, cheap person. So what he ended up doing for Thanksgiving, we were going to go to this place. My mom, she's not capable. She's 80 years old. She can't cook. I don't know how to cook, a Thanksgiving meal. So a lot of people do this now. They get older and they don't have time. My dad doesn't have the patience to do it because he used to cook too. So for the last, decade, we go out to eat. We go to different restaurants, even for Christmas now too. And everything's closed on Christmas. So we were to go to this place called Cracker Barrel because the meals are only $10 a person. He loves that, my father, because my mother says, you're not going to pay for your Thanksgiving meal. So it's like, fine, okay, I won't pay for it. If you want to pay for it, that's fine. I don't have a steady income right now. So Cracker Barrel, when I got there, because I slept in late, I was really tired from the night before. Cracker Barrel was crowded. It was like a 3-hour wait, 2-hour wait. So I told my parents, my father, my friend Todd told me, hey, do you know that, I didn't know this before either, he didn't know this, that Bob Evans, I found out, for the last 3 years has been open on Thanksgiving. So I told my parents, maybe we should just go to Bob Evans instead of Cracker Barrel. My dad and my mom said, well, we really want to go to Cracker Barrel, not Bob Evans. I don't know if I said that straight. I am now. And I said, okay, but one's closer to the house than the other one. It was like he wasn't persistent. He called. He said, they said it's only a half an hour wait, so we're going to just go to Cracker Barrel. He did it because it was cheap. And I don't care. I like Cracker Barrel. After we knew it was like a 2-hour wait, we said, you know what, we're going to go elsewhere. Guess where my dad wanted to choose, folks, where he wanted to eat. He wanted to eat at Boston Market on Thanksgiving. It's a fast food restaurant. It's a glorified fast food restaurant. He literally said he would go to Wawa. They have a turkey meal there you can get at Wawa. It's that little bowl they give you with stuffing and turkey on top. He was going to pay for that, but no more. And I told him, well, why don't we just go to Bob Evans? And it was like, no, that's too expensive. We're going to eat there. He says, I'll just eat at home. Or I'll eat at Wawa. And I'm not even joking. And a friend told me you should tell him McDonald's is open. And he would have done that. He literally said, my father said, I'll go to McDonald's for dinner. And it was like, you know what? Why don't you just, he wanted to go to this Greasy Spoon diner that the meals, he said, quote unquote, I want to go to this diner, East Norton Diner, because it includes everything for $10. It includes your dessert, your meal, and everything else. We eat there, this East Norton Diner, every single day, breakfast and dinner. Not even a joke. Breakfast and dinner, because they give my parents free coffee, a $6 meal, includes everything. So he wanted that for Thanksgiving. My mother said, you know what, we eat here twice a day, 7 days a week. I don't want to go here on Thanksgiving. No offense to them. I don't want to eat there. And I was like, I don't either. I like the people. I don't want to eat there. Sometimes their food's a little bit rotted, too. Because it's a greasy spoon place. What do you expect? It's a nice folks, so I'm just saying. So my dad, he's yelling and screaming the whole entire time. Finally get him to go to Bob Evans, and he orders eggs and home fries for Thanksgiving. And beforehand, he asked Bob Evans, because he saw the meal, he asked me constantly, because I called Bob Evans from Cracker Barrel on my cell phone, and I said, are you guys open all day? They said, yeah, we're open till 9. I said, okay, that's great. We're coming right down right now. My dad said, can you call back and find out how much the meals are? And I said, okay, I will. So I called back, had it on speaker of my father. They said, well, the meals are $15 a piece. And I said, okay, that's fine. So my dad's starting to yell and scream about that. I said, don't worry about it. I'll pay for my own meal. Don't worry about it. So he had to pay for me and my mother. And he was bitching, complaining. He says, well, I'm not that hungry. Basically, it was because of the bill being so high for him. It would have been $30 for 2 people. It would have been $30 at Bob Evans for 3 people. But he didn't want to hear that. It was all about the money. So anyway, he ends up buying eggs and home fries because it was the cheapest thing on the menu. But beforehand, I told my father, well, maybe you should ask. They have a kids menu for Thanksgiving meal. That's $6. So the waitress got really pissed with him, and he said, can I get the kids meal? And she said, that's actually only for kids. It depends on the place. Some places, if you treat the person right, say, I'm not a really big eater, they'll give senior citizens the kids meal because they know seniors don't eat as much. My dad eats a lot. And what he did was, he didn't want to pay $15 for himself for a meal. He thought that was way too expensive on a holiday. So he was even fighting about how much I gave as a tip. It was ridiculous. So what he ended up doing, he got eggs and home fries, and it wasn't enough for him. So we get I got what's called banana bread and some other things. He was eating off my plate and my mother's plate, drinking her coffee, and his waitress was going by, annoyed by my father being so cheap. And he said, well, I'm paying for all this stuff. I should be able to do what I want to do. It's like, I'm paying for my own meal. My mother said, I'll pay for my own meal if you're that cheap. And yet he just makes a big argument out of it. So it was the whole thing was a nightmare, folks. So that was no good Thanksgiving. So it just rolled on from that with the Stephanie Grace thing, with that whole shenanigans. My father just screaming and hollering. And then today I told him I had to leave my car on Saturday. I squeezed in an appointment at the car dealership where I bought my car, Volkswagen down the road from where I live. And it was a squeeze in because otherwise I would have to wait until December 10th to get my car worked on. Well, there's nothing wrong with my car. The problem is, though, my inspection's up at the end of the month. So they told me, well, there is some other things. We checked your car out, and the brakes are a little low in the front. It was like, okay, I don't want to have to go back in a couple weeks and have those, or a couple months and have to deal with the shenanigans. They said, if we do it, we won't be able to do it until Monday. And I said, that's fine. Keep the car. I'll call my job. I'll tell them I'll be a little late. Or if I have to, I will take a ride with Lyft into work. Unfortunately, for me to take a ride from my house to my job, which is only down the road, round trip, it's going to probably be about $50. Maybe $20 or $30 if I'm lucky. But it'd probably be most likely $50 because it's a special place. I'll have to go. I'll have to have them drop me off. I'll have to have them pick me up. So that'll cost me like $50. So it'll be a wash. I'll have no money for that day if I have to do that. So I'd rather just call the job and say, listen, I can't make it in because if I do, I'll be working for free. Otherwise, I'll have to have my father take me. So I told him, you know what? Title money, I had borrowed from my 401k $1,800. I had borrowed just the beginning of the year after I lost the situation with my prior job. I had to borrow I had taken an early withdrawal of $18,000 from my 401k. Now, my father, speaking about him, said, don't worry about it. If you need any money, I'll help you out with your bills. I understand you're like low on money and you don't have a job. It's happened with my friends. My one friend, Todd, he was out of a job for a whole year. He could not find a job. He was living in New York. His rent was like $900 a month at least. And he had no income. So he was getting some unemployment, but his parents were forking out the bill for his rent every month of $900. I don't ask for that kind of money off my father. I don't ask anything off of him, maybe a few meals, and that's about it. So what does he do? I asked him tonight, because it's still like nighttime. It's not even 8 o'clock yet. It's 7. Yeah, I'm going to have to call work tomorrow and tell him I'm going to either not be able to come in or I'll be a little late. If I need to come in, I will take Lyft. I don't want to. I have a Lyft app on my phone. And I prefer my father, just to drop me off, and maybe I'll just take Lyft on the way home then. Either way, he was yelling and screaming about money. The same man who said, I'll help you with your bills. He has not helped me with one bill yet. Literally, he has not helped me with one bill. And I told him, I said, he says, you need to watch what you spend money on. It's like, okay, so, and he says, don't pay your car insurance. You shouldn't have to pay that. Just hold off on it. You don't have to pay it all at once. My car insurance was due. The last 8 months, since April, I've been having to pay $140 a month for my health insurance. That includes everything. I'm not going to get it cheaper anywhere else because otherwise it would cost me $900 a month under Cobra. So it's costing me $140. But put it on the credit card month after month after month, that adds up. That's why I had to borrow $1,800. I haven't done any really wishful spending on Black Friday, and today I spend a little money on certain things. Nothing that expensive. Nothing that's going to put me in a hole. As a whole, I spend no more than about $100. I'm not even kidding. $100 on everything I bought for myself. Nothing that spectacular. It's not going to put me into poverty. And I think I bought one gift for my father for Christmas. One gift. Nothing for my mother. I bought it ahead of time because I know it's going to be rough. And I'll hear about that too. Oh, you shouldn't have bought me anything. I don't have any money. I'm broke. The man is got more money. He knows what to do with. He just doesn't want to touch it. So, bottom line. So I had to deal with that today. And it was a nightmare, folks. It was a nightmare. I just can't wait to see what happens with my situation with my old job. I am praying to God, and I do mean that sincerely. I get it back because I'll be able to clear up this mess pretty quickly. I'll work whatever I can get. I don't care what the job's going to be. If I get my old job back, I'll even work cleaning toilet stalls at the job. I don't care. Just because I had so much money invested in a 401k, a retirement fund, and what is the 401k is the retirement fund, and some other things. So I don't really care what I do within reason, and they do give me what if I need certain accommodations they've been well aware of, that's all I care about. And I can pay off, reestablish my 401k, money I lost, money that was taken away from me from not being there, that was, put into my retirement fund to pay my bills, that I wasn't scraping by every week and borrowing money from a loan. It'd be nice. I mean, the most my father is giving me right now, he's paying the cable bill. I gave a buddy every month for the cable bill. I don't watch cable. That includes, though, the internet, which I do need. I gave him money for the internet at least, but I don't watch the cable box more than once in a blue moon. Him and her, my mother and father, live on the TV set. Morning, noon, and night watching cable. I don't watch more than about an hour, 2 hours a week on cable. The rest is everything streaming. So he bitches about that. He bitches about he has no money. He bitches how, I got to scrape money and be more careful. Well, the job I work at now, they send you home 20% of the time they send you home, so you don't get a full paycheck for the week. And yet that's my fault. And my other problem is I can't afford to go anywhere else because right now I need to show that I got cut off from unemployment. I was getting unemployment for a while there and working, but now they say you're working 40 hours a week. We can't give you any unemployment. Well, I don't get 40 hours a week, though. I get less than that. But he doesn't want to hear that. It's me just being wasteful of money, meaning my father. The whole thing is just a nightmare, folks. I'm just going to I babbled on for 2 hours out of this, so I hope you like this. This is Walter from iWalter. Have a good night. There is no video cast this time. It's just all audio. So it should sound pretty damn good. So have a good one, and I am signing off for now.